All right. Hi, everybody. David Fogel back with you, CEO of the Symphonina Foundation, back with another Symphonina Foundation podcast. And we have a very special guest today, the first guest. Back in November 1 of 2024, as it turns out, Laure Chan, violin virtuoso, was our very first guest on the podcast. And now she's our 81st guest. We've done 80 and now 81 with Laure again. So Laure, you know, when you get to be on the show twice, we call you a friend of the show. And I think you have to be the OG friend of the show. Even though others have appeared twice, you are the OG friend of the show. Welcome back.
Hello, David. Nice to see you again. I'm honored. I didn't know I was the first.
Well, we didn't let these little secrets out as we're starting things because, you know, some people don't want to be first. But I'm glad you were the first. It's just an honor to be with you again. And I know you have some material that you've worked on again called Lost in Translation that you're submitting for Grammy consideration this year. I wanted to give you an opportunity to tell everybody about it. So let's just start there. What are you up to?
Yes, so Lost in Translation is a re-recording of the original, which was for 4 violins. I recorded that back in 2023 with just a multi-track recording, actually. 4 violins that I recorded by themselves, and then we put them together. And that was recorded in Abbey Road Studios. And then I got an email from a friend asking if I would consider rearranging Lost in Translation for a string ensemble. So then I arranged it for violins, violas, cellos, and double bass. And then we had a concert of that. And then they asked me if I'd like to record it on their album. They are called the Curve Ensemble. So they're a string ensemble based in London, and they comprise of lots of my friends and colleagues. And we recorded it last year, end of last year. So in December 2024, we recorded it in Hampstead in London in a beautiful little church, isolated from traffic noise. Okay. So it was very nice. We recorded a few pieces, all from contemporary composers and instrumentalists, many of whom were in the ensemble. So that was a nice experience. It's always quite an intimate feel, especially when you're playing not only pieces that are written in recent times, but also written by people who are playing it. So they give you firsthand knowledge of how they want it to be heard and what the intent was behind the piece. So Lost in Translation was inspired at a time when I was going through quite a lot of emotional turmoil. It started off as a solo violin piece, and then months later I wasn't quite happy with how it sounded by itself, and I thought it really needs an underpin of harmony and texture. So then I recorded it. Well, I created it first for 4 violins, and then actually this string arrangement has a little bit more underpinning with the different registers. So we've got a little bit more of that bass that we need and the extreme high registers as well. So this is a slightly more full dimensional version, which I really enjoyed recording. So that's a little bit about that. And yes, now it's going up for the arrangement, instrumental and a cappella category in the Grammys. Okay. I think that's under the craft categories because it's already been recorded and it's already been composed, and it's a rearrangement of the original. Yeah. That's the category that it falls into.
Yeah, so, that's all great. We'll look for it there. What are the kind of things that you think about when you're doing an arrangement, whether it's just for strings or maybe for a larger ensemble, that you have to consider in doing that rearrangement? Are you trying to create something that's relatively new but still kind of brings out the original, or are you trying to enhance the original, or maybe something else?
So arranging is something quite fresh for me. I've had more experience in composing than arranging, and in the past I had arranged some film music from a composer that I adore. His name's Tan Dun, an amazing film and classical composer, and he's written some wonderful films, written music rather for wonderful films like Crouching Tiger and Hero. You may have heard some or watched some of those movies. Yeah. I arranged one of his pieces for the world, and that was a kind of a starting point into my experience of arranging. So I arranged it for violin and piano, and originally it's for violin and orchestra. But when I approach arranging, I think I want to try and stay as close to the original as possible if I feel that it's already so wonderfully written. I think it's one of those things where I feel personally to tread a little bit carefully on how if something's already so great, then enhancing it needs to be carefully considered. That's just the way I feel when I approach it. So I think with this piece, because I had already written it, I knew that the intention was not to overcomplicate it. The piece itself, part of the concept is also to keep it simple. There's a simple melodic line with an underpinning that is often carried out like a drone, so one extended long note. So I wanted to keep that simplicity at the center. So I didn't really add too much to it, just maybe layering a little bit more harmony and more experimenting with the possibilities of register rather than changing material.
Yeah, I guess it depends on the case at hand then for you. So
Exactly, yeah. It depends on the piece. If a piece is, I think it could have been more intricately arranged because it's relatively sparse, but because I wanted to give or evoke this feeling of isolation and confusion. I feel like a feeling like isolation can feel very sparse and
yeah,
not too layered. So that's what I was trying to
yeah,
keep to retain that emotional intent.
makes total sense. I know you've performed at Carnegie Hall, at Royal Albert Hall, many other famous places. What do you have coming up for your concert tour?
I'm not doing a tour at the moment. I've
Okay.
got some different projects going on. I just came back from a residency in Switzerland
Okay.
at the Verbier Festival, which was a dream of mine
Mm.
to go to since I was a teenager. So I had an artist residency there. I was living there for almost a month. It was quite an intense month of packed concerts and lectures and industry people in the field of classical music and also beyond. There were improvisation workshops, and my purpose there was I had an artist residency in a program called the Creative Project Development Artist Residency. So I showcased a concept of a program that I was working on featuring contemporary composers and instrumentalists of different cultures, many inspired by the Silk Road. So I had some Chinese traditional inspired music, Indian classical music, Arabic classical music. And then I also played pieces from film composers and classical composers such as John Corigliano, American film composer who I'm a big fan of, and also an original piece of mine. And so I showcased a whole variety of works. And then when I came back, I had some time off, and now I'll be going to New York soon. I'll be having a private concert there. And I suppose the main thing I'm working towards now is a concert in Uruguay, which will be
Oh,
interesting. It's the first time I'll ever have
there you go.
gone to Uruguay. So I'll be playing the Sibelius Violin Concerto with their Philharmonic Orchestra,
Oh,
Montevideo, so from the capital,
yeah.
and some chamber music, which I'm really looking forward to. I've been missing doing more chamber music and collaborating with friends. So
Yeah.
that's what I'll do for the next few
Well,
months.
we wish you all the best of that. I want to return to Lost in Translation, ask you a couple of other questions about it. People might be interested in what goes on behind the scenes. I know you have a couple of producers, and John Croft is your engineer, mixer, mastering engineer. I think Jim Perkins and Anna DeBruin were your producers. So let me know, how do you work together? How do you find the people that you want to work with? And then how does it work for you when you're working in a team?
So Anna is a friend of mine and colleague.
Mhm.
She asked me about 2 years ago if I'd like to join her for a concert with her ensemble. She is one of the founders of the Curve Ensemble. So it started off by collaborating in concert together. And then she mentioned to me that they often want to feature contemporary works and from their ensemble. So it's a kind of instrumentalist composers ensemble where they showcase their pieces every time they perform something. And they have different themes accordingly. They also had some tango themed concerts and things like that. So piazzolla and pieces like that were also performed.
Mm-hmm.
And she has this direct connection to Jim Perkins, who owns the Big O and Twiggerty label, for which the albums have been recorded on.
Nice.
And then she asked me if I'd like to record this piece. And then since the recording has come out in March this year, Jim asked if he could publish Lost in Translation. So as an independent, primarily a performer, but emerging composer, this is my first official publication. And that's with Bucks Music Ltd. So it's a partnership with the label Big O and Twiggerty and Bucks Music Publishing. So it's a very new endeavor and I'm really excited. And the team are really down to earth, kind people. Yeah. So it's just a pleasure to work with them. These days, I'm quite selective with who I collaborate with. Which I consider myself in a very lucky place to be increasingly selective. I've done about 5-6 years of full-time freelancing, and there is a time, I think, where it's important to say yes to many opportunities. And then when you start to find a direction that feels more fulfilling, perhaps, then it's good to also be selective with your energy so that you can really give your authentic self and put all your efforts into the projects that you commit to.
Yeah, I think you have to believe in what you're doing, right? So as you say, in your career, as you advance, sometimes you get to the point where you have those opportunities to just focus exclusively on the things that interest you the most. It's not that the other things don't interest you, it's just that they interest you the most for whatever the reason.
Yeah, and I think it's also good to come to a point where you can admit what your weaknesses are and where you need help as well, and get that mentorship as well. And I find that collaborations, when they work not only artistically but also as people and also distributing tasks, because there's so many things that go on besides the actual artistic music making process, then it really works. When people are, for instance, really efficient in replying and you feel like there's something in motion, it's really exciting.
Yeah, everything sounds great, and I just want to give kudos out to John Croft. You didn't mention him, but I want to ask you, when someone's doing the engineering and the mixing and the mastering, there are advantages to that. There may be some disadvantages to that. As a performer, as the composer, and the person who's out in front of the product that's going to be released, what input do you have to John in that process of how it's going to be recorded, how it's going to be mixed, and how it's going to be mastered?
Well, John and I just met actually on the day of the recording. I suppose the reason I was talking more about Anna and Jim's because I've known them a little bit longer. But John was seamless in his approach. We sat down, I listened to it once as we were recording it live. Afterwards, I went to listen to it with him. Mm-hmm. And there was maybe 1 or 2 bars or so that I thought just needed a little bit of tweaking, and that was it really. It was really seamless. Then I listened back after the recording day and gave some notes, and it was really an easy process. I've had other experiences with very long albums where, also I should mention that the piece is only 3 minutes long. So I've recorded some pieces that were 17 minutes long in their entirety, concertos that were up to 30-40 minutes. So of course, the editing process there is slightly different ballgame. But this was really seamless. And I really liked the natural sound that they captured in the mics. I think the experience of recording in a church is really quite different to recording in a studio, because with the studio you have this quite dry, of course it depends on the studio, but a lot of smaller studios have quite a dry sound, which becomes easier to manage in the editing process, and you can potentially add reverb and things like that. But in a church where you have this natural resonance, it's quite inspiring. It kind of replicates a concert hall experience. And the way that he had mic'd everything up captured that natural resonance, and it really sounded cinematic to me. And so I thought he just really understood where I was coming from. So it was a very, very straightforward process, I felt. I think he took care of everything. I didn't really have to think of much this time, which was a luxury for me, especially as an independent artist. Having before co-produced some albums, this was quite a seamless process.
Well, when everything is done at the highest levels, it turns out that the product is at the highest level. So congratulations to all of you, and to you in particular. Laure, if people want to get in touch with you, what's the best way to do that?
So they can get in touch with me through my website, laurechan.com. There's a contact form there, and it goes straight to my email. So that's probably the best way to do it. Also through my social networking sites. So Instagram is the one that I use the most, but it's a little bit hard sometimes to keep on top with Instagram, because sometimes they don't always come in the main general box. So yeah, I would say my website, laurechan.com.
LAURECHAN.com. Laure, we'll look forward to having you back on the show a third time. Maybe you'll be the first third-time guest on our show. And we wish you all the best with your... Yes, go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say something besides Lost in Translation. There will definitely be some new projects coming up.
Yes, of course. Well, we wish you all the best on your travels, Uruguay, and everything else that you've got going on, and with your Grammy submission. And thank you again for being the kickoff guest to what has turned into quite a successful production here at the Symphonina Foundation, and quite a joy for me, actually, to be able to share all the stories with everybody. Everybody has a story, and it's interesting and important, and we've been able to share everybody from Grammy winners to violin virtuosos like you, to students who are aspiring to be professionals, and teachers, and everybody else in between. It's been just a delight, and I thank you for that. So again, good luck with everything. Thank you. Yeah.
Congratulations for the successes. 81 podcasts in, that's really impressive in only 1 year. I can only imagine all the hard work that you put in. Thank you for giving us a platform to talk about our work. It's much appreciated.
Thank you, Laure. All right, we'll wish you the best, and we'll listen to some more of your great music on the way out. As always, if we can do anything for you, just let us know.
Oh, thank you very much, David. It was lovely to catch up with you.